Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the March 2024 edition of the St. Louis Java Users Group. So for those who don't know, our first meeting was in May of 1997. We're an informal group. There's no formal membership list or anything like that. Attendance is free. Normally, we meet on the second Thursday of each month except December when there is no meeting. There's just too many things going on over the holidays for us to be able to organize a meeting then. And when we meet in person, and yes, we're meeting in person in the OCI training room, you can join us for food and social at 6 p.m. and the meeting starts at 6:30. So if you want to know where we are, we're in the Object Computing Incorporated training room, and that's at 12,140 Woodcrest Executive Drive, Suite 310, and that's in St. Louis, Missouri. I'd like to introduce the other members of the St. Louis Java Users Group Steering Committee. So from left to right, we have Ted Doyle, Bruce Allspaw, that's me, Robert Levitt, and Wei Chi Gao. You can email all of us on the steering committee if you send an email to that address there that's at the bottom of your screen. That's javasigsc@ociweb.com. And I'd like to introduce the latest new member of the steering committee, Zach Klein. The St. Louis Java Users Group would not be possible without the help of our JUG sponsors. So from left to right, top to bottom, we have Object Computing Incorporated, and they've been our lead sponsor since 1997. So thank you for donating the training room and the pizza here tonight. And they'll also be filling in on paying for the Meetup subscription. It's free for you to use Meetup to join the meetings, but it does cost the group a little bit of money to be able to have a page on the meetup.com website, and they cover that cost for us. JFrog is also very good. They've been covering the subscription for the Zoom so that we can have these remote meetings. At the end of this meeting, we will be raffling 2 JetBrains licenses and 2 Manning ebooks of your choice. However, you must be present to win, either online or in person, to be able to win those in the raffle at the end of the meeting. So if you're watching the recording, I'm sorry, it's too late. You do have to be present to win. So Manning has sponsored some discount codes as one of our sponsors, and you can get 40% off any of their products if, when you're checking out, you use that discount code JUG13. The No Fluff Just Stuff conference is coming up on April 5th through the 6th, and that will be online and in person. And there's a JUG discount code if you want to attend that conference. That's JUG100 NFJS24. You can get more information about that conference at that webpage there. It's at the bottom of the screen. nofluffjuststuff.com/St. Louis. And yes, at the end of the meeting, we will be raffling 1 No Fluff Just Stuff ticket. So thank you very much to Jay Zimmerman for that. And as far as announcements go, the DevNexus 2024 conference is coming up April 9th through the 11th in Atlanta, Georgia. And they are the largest Java users group conference that's put on by the Atlanta JUG. And they'll be meeting in Atlanta, and you can get information about that on devnexus.com. Our sister JUG is organizing the Kansas City Developer Conference from June 26th to June 28th in Kansas City, Missouri. And you can get information about that at that webpage, kcdc.info. So as far as upcoming presentations go, on April 4th, we'll be meeting 1 week early because we have someone from the steering committee who will be attending DevNexus. That's why we're meeting a week early. And that will be Unleashing the Power of Java, JSON, and Databases. And that'll be April 4th now, and by Josh Spiegel of Oracle. And then on May 9th, we have Full Stack from the Back, a Java-driven approach to building web applications. And Lawrence Lockhart of Vaadin will be coming in. So if you want to keep up with our presentation schedule, that's easy to do. Just go to our webpage on Meetup. That's meetup.com/gatewayjug, and you can see the updates to the presentation schedule and location. So as soon as we schedule something, it'll be posted there on Meetup. And now if you're interested in giving a presentation or sponsoring the Jug, you can just send us an email at that address I gave you before. That's javasigsc@ociweb.com. So now we're ready for tonight's presentation. Paul's been helping me click through these slides. So I'm going to turn off my little microphone here, and I'm going to hand things over here to Paul. So why don't you take it away here?
All right, thanks, Bruce. Let's see, everybody hear me okay? All right, cool. I'm kind of a loud talker as it is, or so I'm told. But yeah, all right, let's try this. I don't know why that guy did not want to forward through at all, but hey, you know, that's how it goes. And actually, unfortunately, I have to give a correction to that first that slide there. I used to work for Grafana Labs. I no longer do. Yeah, I was one of those crazy people that actually decided I'm done. I don't want to do remote work anymore. I'm tired of it. I want to go back to an office. You know, maybe twice a month. So that's yeah, so I'm actually now, I am a software architect for National Information Solutions Cooperative, NISC, not to be confused with NCIS Las Vegas. You know, I would love to be as cool as LL Cool J, but I'm not there yet. Not to mention, I need to work out a little bit, but anyway, but yeah, and so my side hustle is I am the cloud gnome. I have a strange obsession with gnomes. You'll see one there. I'm starting to look like one, just sans the hat. But anyway, but that's just some of the things that I do for fun. And let's see. So you can get a hold of me there. That's my Twitter/X handle, and you'll probably find me as on any kind of social media as Java Ducky. I used to be a Java developer. I am no more. I've gone to the dark side. So no, I have been for the last couple of years, I've been doing more Golang development, you know, and sticking with open source and things like that. So anyway, let's see. But yeah, but I still have the moniker. I can't give that up. I gained that moniker since 2001. So, all right, now let's see if this is going to work for me now. Woohoo! All right, miracles exist. So we're going to start with my disclaimer. This is something that I do on almost every single presentation that I give, but I am not an expert in test containers. I am a user, a developer, and I played around and I had the need. So I went ahead and I started digging into it. So it's kind of a first look presentation, consider it that, even though my Go friends in here can tell you that I did give this talk with a Go flavor, like, I don't know, about a month ago. So we do have that available on the YouTube channel. And then if there's anything that, you know, I misspeak or whatever, feel free to forward complaints to the QR code there. That's all my, my contact information. You can get a hold of me. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. Yeah, so anyway, that's to say that. And I do not work for Testcontainers, or AtomicJar being the company that is kind of the sponsor of them, and now Docker. But I'm giving away future slides, so I got to stop that. So anyway, let's start with the beginning, right? So what's with unit tests? So unit tests, it's a great thing, right? But can anybody here tell me what is the appropriate percentage of coverage to have on your code bases? Greater than 0, yeah? There we go. Yeah. Basically, yeah. Who knows? It's up to you, right? But greater than 0, I would say is definitely that's a thumbs up for me. I will agree to that. I know that there's many, in the test-driven development community, the TDD zealots, and I try not to offend. I don't mean to offend if I do, but I'm not one of those. I believe in tests. I believe in doing them early and using them often, but I just never could get into the swing of actually that being the first thing that I write. I have to create my static void main and start creating things, and then I start the tests. But anyway, kind of digressing here, but otherwise we'll go into holy wars about TDD and all that good stuff, because I know I have some people in here that are in that the TDD camp. But anyway, so yeah, so test should be item potent, right? So it's going to be repeatable every time. And then this Britney Spears microphone is, I keep kind of knocking it. So hopefully, if you stop hearing me over the speakers or you can't hear me online, please let me know. I probably messed something up because I'm one that I can never sit still. Call it ADHD, ADD, whatever. SUB. I don't know. So anyway, but so yeah, so what we do normally is we create mocks, and those can become unrealistic. They're great at first, right? You're getting your tests, you're getting all that there, but over time they're going to deviate. They're not going to. You're going to have to constantly maintain them, and that is more baggage. That's that all that overhead that you have to pay down sometime. But and then you can get a false sense of security from a lot of your tests too. Because I mean, if you're going against a mock, but reality has changed, then your tests are really only proving that, yeah, in the past it worked, but it's not reflecting the current state of things. So I don't have the answer. I don't know what to tell you. So thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Take pizza on the way out, but no, but there is help. And that's here now we have the before all. Now this was kind of a funny thing because I used the @ before all to Go developers, and then they didn't get it, right? So the annotation there, so before we go into any of the tests, let's go over the overview of Testcontainers. Now, straight from or paraphrase straight from their website, and man, I hope we don't get hit by a tornado. It's like, wow. Yeah, and then I have a nice drive on the way home, as do a couple other members here. But yeah, so Testcontainers, it's an open source framework providing throwaway, lightweight instances of databases, could be a Kafka server, whatever. Could be a Kubernetes cluster in test, but anything that can be run in a Docker container. So if we look at that, it's all about, we want to have our test dependencies in our code. We want it to be blatantly obvious right there in the code where we are sitting there living in the IDE and we see it. There's no surprises. We know what it's going to run against. It's right there, right? We want the support for the many languages with Testcontainers. So besides Java, we have Go, which, yeah, best language ever. I know, I am a little biased. I am a GoBridge Ambassador, and I'm also actually a CNCF Ambassador for those in the whole cloud native world. But anyway, but yeah, so they have several languages. They even have Rust. Yeah, which that's something it's on my list. I hope it doesn't go away before I get to learn it. Um, I don't know. It's one of those difficult languages that, you got to fight the compiler, but ultimately it'll be your friend. But anyway, again, I digress. And see, you'll see I get on these tangents all the time. So crazy professor or something, I don't know what it is. Again, ADHD, maybe. But yeah, so with test containers, again, we can test anything that we can containerize, which is really cool. Now, if you go onto their website and you'll see from the clip there, they have over 50 modules available. So 50 different targets that you can test against. And then actually there's one that was recently added that I contributed for K6 for load testing. Now, and I'll show a little bit of that here soon. But yeah, and it's all about dev first integration testing. You want to be able to shift left. So in other words, all developers should be doing more. You're not doing enough now, but we want to shift things left because, right, that's when it's cheapest to fix. I know, I make stinkies at times, and my tests have found those for me. So I am more than happy to always do unit testing up front and integration testing as well. So if we look just now at GitHub, test containers has been around for Java for quite some time. 2016 is when it started, was the first commits. And then you'll see from Duke flying up there, sailing away like a nice kite in this weather that we're going to be getting here any moment. But yeah, so it continues to grow. .NET, do we even want to mention that? I probably shouldn't have even included it, but yeah, they're catching up, or they're trying to, but that's okay. But they'll be overcome by Go here soon. So if I have anything to do with it. But yeah, so again, over 50 modules, K6 now being one of them. I should have added that my logo there. And then of course, as I kind of alluded to earlier, AtomicJar, the kind of custodians, if you will, for test containers, they've been recently acquired by Docker. So that's kind of I would say that's a vote of confidence that this project will be around. Yes? Exactly. Exactly. So a lot of them are going to be community contributions, but the AtomicJar folks, they're maintainers. They do oversee that. So you can't. I couldn't do a direct merge, basically. One of their. Yes. Yes. Hmm? Sorry. Yeah, I forgot. We don't have the drop down microphones over the audience. But yeah, so that was if just in case if anyone didn't hear that, that was a question about who really maintains all these different modules. So, but yeah, they are primarily community driven. They do have one of their or a couple developers that they keep adding things to it. But yeah, but we'll have an example where you'll see it in use with a couple different modules. One being the new one that I added. So yeah, let's see. Okay. Was there another? These, that's the sweet thing. It's a real MongoDB. And it's using a container image, a Docker image that in the case of Mongo developers, they created. So you're using their real thing. The only thing that was contributed by the, or by maintainers or by the community is to wire up to create and launch that container for you. But yeah, but all these images are available on like Docker Hub and things like that, or the GCR or any other container registry. So yeah, so it is good. So that way then, as you go and get the upgraded versions, you can always stay with the latest version that they're providing. And that way then too, as you go to do your upgrades, for like an existing application, you can start playing around and see what happens if you just do the upgrade of that target resource. But yeah, but it's very cool. I'm quite stoked, as the kids would say, about this project. So, but again, so yeah, you're going to specify this is a mocked up example that I put together from some of the documentation, but this isn't going to be the way that you always have to do it. So this is kind of explicit here, but what's going on is that with this test, I'm actually creating or saying instantiating a Docker container with RabbitMQ version 3.725 with the management console plugin included for the UI. And then I'm explicitly telling it to start. And then, then I'm doing some of my wiring. I'm binding that resource target to my example service. And then I can start playing around with that service. But, the power in it is that, we specify everything right there in our code. There's no surprises. You know what you're going against. So if you want to go against, again, a alpha release of RabbitMQ, you can do that and just see what happens. And it's no harm, no foul. It's you'll see if it works or not, and you're not breaking any systems or making it where a sysadmin's going to be upset because, well, now they got to rebuild or give you a new image, that type of a thing. But yeah, it's right there on the code. So now is the real life application, AKA the demo. So now this is a little project, fun on the tiny microservice there, the WeSVC, that I had created a while back in 2019, so pre-pandemic. It's been a long time. But what I was wanting to do was, I like to go through a lot of these different languages and frameworks and things like that. So I wanted to implement the exact same project, the exact same RESTful API microservice in multiple languages. So I could side by side compare them and contrast them. So I did things like I used Go, I used Spring Boot, I tried Micronaut. I know it's not fully baked. This was a play project that I was doing just to kind of play around with these things. And it was inspired by a project called, To Do MVC, which that's a nice one too. It's it's a to-do list where you check things off, and it's implemented with all kinds of different JavaScript frameworks. So, and then if you want to do Angular versus React, I don't know if it gets into that, but and Ember.js and all that. But it's very cool. That way, then you can compare and contrast, apples to apples as much as you can. So this was just something that I had put together, and then I started playing around with it more, and then I started doing, it's like, okay, I have all these applications that are written in different languages. I want to make sure that they're all doing the exact same thing. So I created contract tests. So that way then with K6, my former employer, I could actually go through there and then run through a scenario and say, yeah, it returns exactly the same thing, as my contract says. And then I can run that against every one of them. Thought being is that I could put that into the CI/CD, so in the GitHub action, that if anybody creates pull request or whatever, it runs against that, and then it's like, oh, no, no good, no bueno. You deviated from the API. So again, just a little fun little project. And let's see. Yeah, with the Spring Boot implementation, well, Spring Boot is magic, right? Does everyone agree? I don't know. Does everyone's familiar with Spring Boot? I mean, it's cool. It is cool. It's amazing. As long as you stay on the rails of it, right? It's all about configuration or what, oh my goodness. Convention over configuration. Thank you. Thank you. Say that ADHD cropping up on me. No, but yeah, so it's all about that. So as long as you play by their rules, you're going to be good. But then it does get complicated. So anyway, one being the reactive framework. So anyway, I was bringing that in just to play around with the non-blocking and all that. And then I switched it over from doing what was I doing? The H2 database, I guess, the in memory. And then I wanted to switch it over to do Postgres because my Go one I started doing with Postgres. All right, so with that, to bring in the test containers to test this little microservice that I've got, I created a couple things. I created for the API, I created a places REST controller tests, that's my normal kind of test. It's going to go against the database and all that good stuff. It's going to seed an ephemeral Postgres instance, and it's going to go through and perform all those CRUD operations just to make sure that those are all good. And then for the K6 piece, and this is kind of a little controversial, would you do the contract tests in this? I don't know. Jury's a little bit out on it. With the Go one, I was kind of like, probably not. But with this one and the Spring Boot, it was kind of like, I like it there, actually. It was working out quite nicely. But anyway, so I did add that in there, and then it does multiple containers with test containers, so you can have more than one thing. So if you want, RabbitMQ and Redis, you can have both and test against both of them. So in this case, I'm going to be doing running K6, so the K6 module that I contributed, and then I'll be running against a Postgres database. So that I just wanted to kind of set it all up for you. And this is the actual GitHub repository for it. And of course, yeah, any kind of pull requests and all that are appreciated. I do want to get Rust implementations. I do want to get Python even. I don't know, who does Python? I don't know, yeah, no, I mean, yeah. No, I'm just not a fan, right? I mean, I never really messed with it. And then it's like, really, the space matters? And then, well, the space, I'm a controversial speaker. But yeah, no, I'm just not a big fan of it. I never had to do it, but now going back to my former employer that I'm at now, who I used to work for 9 years prior to going to Grafana and K6, they still took me back. They knew me, and they still took me back. So, but yeah, but I found that the Pythonistas had taken over the kingdom. So I don't know. I told them I'm going to rewrite everything in Go. So anyway, I joke, but there's some people that are really interested in Go, and I do love Go. All right, so now I'm going to switch over, and we're going to see if this works okay. Hopefully, I'm going to use my IDE. Did I not? All right. Can you verify, do you see the IDE okay on the Zoom? I would assume it should be fine. Yeah, I'll increase the font size as well, but we're gonna do this. And no. Hold on. Let me. All right. It's always a party with this one. Let me tell you. Okay, I'm gonna do that because I want to keep this. I have Docker Desktop over here on the side, and I do want this to show when. Oh God, man. It's hell getting old because my eyes, I can't see. I just, and then this thing's in the way, and it's like I can't grab the mint. Really? Okay, here we go. There. Okay. So So this is the point, was that I was wanting to be able to show this containers on Docker desktop, so that as a container spins up from running the unit test, we'll see that, there's things going on. I'm just not, doing things with smoke and mirrors, even though smoke and mirrors are involved. Let's see, and then the font size okay, or shall I increase that? I think I know the key combination now. Whoop. Oh man, what's going on? Okay, so last night I was here in town as well, hosting for the. So I also, did I mention I host like 4 different meetup groups? So yeah, you wonder why I can't keep anything straight in my head. But no, but last night we were here at this location here at OCI. And then we were doing the cloud native community group from the CNCF. So I was not presenting, but the presenter did have, he was using not IntelliJ, he was using Golang, but same difference. It's all from JetBrains, which, by the way, use the license. If you get it, use it. They are very upset if you do not use those, and they will threaten to take it away, I'm sure. Nick? Nick's not here, is he? Uh-oh. All right. So let's see. It was, Control Shift period. All right, let's see. Control Shift. All right. And I thought that was going to do all of them, but oh well, that's okay. All right. So of course I was playing around with this earlier. So let me go into this, and here we go. All right. So again, I think oh, snap. Let's see. Let's see. All right. There we go. I forgot to burn incense before doing this, so hopefully the demo gods are appeased enough. So okay. And again, that from that previous URL that I was showing, you can see all this as well. But so here's the one placeholders. Oh my, places REST controller test. That's one thing too with Java. We got to have these crazy names, and it's like, oh no. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of. No, yeah. Well, there is a reason, kind of, I guess. I don't know. Maybe there wasn't. It was pre-pandemic. Give me a break. But yeah, so this is the new one. And this is using the Spring Boot test framework. So if you recall from that example that I showed before, we were kind of like, that was in the slides. We were kind of like manually going through. We were saying, oh, okay, create the RabbitMQ container. And then we were saying start and all this stuff. Well, this one we're using for Spring Boot, it's a little bit more, okay, because Spring Boot is magic, unfortunately. So what I'm doing here, though, is we're going to just load up everything from the application context that we want for the service itself, the REST controller, and then the places repository, because the repository is the actual data access object, the DAO from, days of yore when we used to call it a DAO. But yeah, and then I'm just telling the web environment, it's going to actually start up the service, and it's just going to bind it to a random port, just so that in like a real unit test, you can run these in parallel and not have port collisions. And then in this case now, I'm providing explicitly this the R2 DBC. So because again, this is using the reactive drivers and all that. And all I'm doing here, you'll see, is the very magic of specifying that it is TC for test containers, and it's going to be Postgres SQL. Okay, it's going to create this test DB database. Okay, and then I'm passing in this with this parameter. It's going to tell it what source Docker image to pull down. So it's going to go to Docker Hub. If you don't already have it in your local image repository, then we'll download that Docker version, and then it'll use that. It'll stand it up, and you'll notice that nowhere do I have it explicitly saying start or even the shut down or anything like that. That is being taken care of by the magic of Spring. So, so all I had to do then was put in my REST controller. So this is my API. This is going to be the, the get set, all that. I'm sorry, not get set, but it'll be my REST endpoints, my CRUD endpoints, my post puts and, gets and all that. And then now it's just this standard old test, right? I'm calling my fixtures my implementation of the REST controller, and you'll see that again with the magic of how Spring Boot is, it's going to be mapped to that URI, and then we've got our little methods here and just the normal stuff. All right, so. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and run this real quick. And let me make sure I run the right one because I want to run that one. And I'll just go ahead and debug. I'm going to go that. Now this. Docker Hub. Well, actually, it's on my machine right now because I have it locally cached. Yeah, so if I didn't have that, excuse me. Let's see. So if I pop in here. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so, all right. Well, so like where I'm at, we have a lot of Oracle databases, and then our schema that is massive. So yeah, trying to spin up a Docker image, unfortunately, is quite the task. But yeah, it's let's see. Let me increase that. So if we take a look here, just doing the standard Docker command, okay, we'll see that I have all kinds of other junk here. Where's my Postgres? Where is my Postgres? There it is. Okay, so 15.3 Alpine. So I could delete this, but I really don't want to poke the demo gods. But I could delete this and then rerun the test, and it will go to Docker Hub because it's no longer local, and it'll pull it down and then execute that. So it starts up the instance. And then now one of the cool fun things too is that, okay, well, are we testing against an empty database? No, I'm using, again, with the power of Spring Boot magic, I have DB migrations. So just by that guy starting up, this script right here, this V1 create places, is going to be executed, and then I'm going to have that database table in automatically. Sure. Yeah, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting that, don't I? I'm bad. Yeah. Well, I'm not advertising for Docker Hub. I mean, if they want to send me things, that's okay. Let me just set up a Patreon account real quick, and Docker Hub can just send me some donations. But yeah, no, yeah. So the question was, yeah, would Docker Hub get upset if we're sitting here running all these tests and pulling it? No, this is their thing. This is their bag. They do make money by now selling Docker Desktop. So what I was showing there. Right. Yeah. I mean, there are ways to be nefarious and go around things and, keep free use of all these things. But yeah. 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 now, but there are other options as well. I mean, Google has GCR, which is the Google Container Registry, same kind of thing. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, so if you didn't want to go off-prem, yeah, you can actually have a locally hosted container registry and then configure your Docker client so that it's using that. Yep. Sure. Yeah, that's yes. And actually, so not on this one, the question was, I'm really bad at that, seriously. But yes, the question was about have I tried this with Docker or with Rancher Desktop? And yes, I have. In this case, when I was with Grafana, we had the company purchase that. Well, the current place where I'm at, we don't. We do have some limited licenses for Docker. And then I just got tired of waiting for my service desk request to be fulfilled. So I just said, I'm just going to use Rancher, you know. So yeah, so I have used it with Rancher Desktop. The config, oh yes, yes. So on the actual test, yep. Yes. Yeah, well, and that's the thing is that so about the issue with the random port in this case. Yes, so what's going to happen is in this case, each one of the test cases inside of this particular class are not going to be done in parallel in this case. But I could have another, I could have, greeting controller, and it's doing a different random port. And yeah, as long as my machine is powerful enough, you should be good. Uh-huh. Uh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean if yeah. Yeah. Oh, port collisions. What are you gonna do? But yeah, but you could explicitly give it a different. Oh. All right. Okay, let's see, where were we then? So yeah, we got so the DDL is going to be executed on the startup of the test. So we have a fresh, empty database with the places table each time we execute the test. Okay. And then in this case, what I was doing is that this is running a single Docker instance. So there's only one container that's being created that all these tests are running against. Now, this is where you can have a problem with the sequence of each of these individual tests are run, because in this case, you might be, say, like testing the delete method or something. Well, you're deleting that you were trying something that you were trying to do a get on, if you're using the same ID. So it's something to be aware of, that, any kind of mutations to the database. Now, in this case too, with the seed data, let's see, here we go. Unfortunately, for this particular example, I didn't dig into it further, but I repeated the exact same create places script essentially in my test class path, but I wanted to add these dummy records, and I didn't want to put that in the production migration, So anyway, that's not a good thing that you have to define the DDL in two places. But again, for me, this was just, this is discovery type stuff, not don't put this in production. But anyway, but yeah, so So this script is actually getting loaded up. So when we run the tests, there actually will be a fully loaded database. So let me go ahead and let's see, where's the Git? Probably at the top, right? Yeah, here. Okay. So I'm going to just go ahead and put a breakpoint here. And you'll see that I'm going to go ahead and do debug. And then when this guy hits, we'll be able to see the places. And then here it is, actually straight from the database, a real database, with this data that we seeded with here. So, you don't have to worry about a mock. This is what you're going to get. This is the real thing. So, version 17 of Postgres comes along. Well, you can just take this test and start experimenting with it. Say, okay, let's try, see what happens with, 17. Was there some kind of a change with the data definition language? Maybe now, I don't know. They don't believe in primary keys anymore. Whatever. You can see if there's any true breaking changes. So this is just kind of give you an idea of some of the things that you can do, but it's very powerful in that you're actually testing against something real. Any questions on that one before we move into the I did. So I kept this one here with the actual defining the DDL, and I even bumped this one up to say, oh, okay, yeah, because it's lexical sorting. So then it's like, okay, yeah, V2 seed data, where I removed this then, and yeah, no bueno. It just gave me an empty database. Yeah, I mean, well, I didn't do that where one test would have one database file and another test would have another. You could do that. It wouldn't be using the Spring magic. Because again, remember, Spring is great as long as you play by their rules. Exactly. And I mean, and then you try to start being like, well, I want to change the way it behaves. And, maybe use Liquibase or something else to have a finer control over the application of those scripts. Yeah. You could, I don't know what exactly you would have to do, but I mean, there's ways. Right? Yes. Yeah. Don't do it. Yeah, don't, no. So yeah, no, I know they've tried to do that. But yeah, they were miserable. We do have some Docker containers that, the image is like 230 megabytes or maybe gigabytes. I don't know, but it's ridiculously stupid large image. And yeah, no, it's just try to segment it or something if you can. Don't try to do maybe the whole schema if possible. A question in chat? Oh, okay. Oh, please. You need to have something. I mean, I could actually create the table in code, but yeah, we could create that in code. I mean, it's Spring will let you do that too, I'm sure. If I wanted to have it explicitly like in in maybe the before test. The before test method that was here, not there, but here. So if I wanted to in here, I could maybe have, included in that test, from a fresh database or the setup method, this typical setup, I could actually, have my DDL defined inside of the code right there as a string. It's, you know, however you want to do it. Yeah, yeah. But let's see. All right. So hopefully that answered that question. Wow, that was a slow test. 4 minutes and 43 seconds. I was paused for a little. No. But yeah, so if I go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and run this again. Let me remove that breakpoint. And then again, we'll see this guy here as the flash happens. You notice that there was a couple containers when that ran. I'll run it again. Let me use my little fancy, see if I can catch it. Did I catch it? Ah, all right, let me put that breakpoint there again. Okay. So as we look here, okay, there it is. So we still have those there because the breakpoints keeping it from completing. We can see that there's these two images. Now, if we look at this test containers RUYK or UK, RYUK, I don't know why they named it that. But anyway, but that is essentially, it's a cleanup container. Okay, that's test containers kind of their hook. Okay, this competent Williams, if you recall, here you can see what its base image is the Postgres 15. But you know, with Docker, you create a container. If you don't name it, it gets, you know, one of these fun names like Ubuntu style, you know, distro names. But anyway, what's going to happen is that's going to complete, and then this RYUK is kind of the cleanup process. So that's going to remove that Docker container. Because of course, when you run an image and you have the container, if you don't let it go, if you don't delete it or tell it to, you know, clean up after itself, you're going to have that still out on your machine, because that way then you could recover that state. So, but anyway, but that's what's going on there. And that's the main magic, okay? So now I wanted to show, this is my API contracts test. So in this case, what I did is we're gonna have two different services, two different containers running for the test, in addition to the RYUK. That's always gonna be there from test containers. But what I'm doing is, in this case, I wanted to have a contract test. So I wanted to make sure and validate that, you know, nothing that I change in the code is going to affect, you know, that API contract, that it's always going to be the same. So API contract testing is a good thing. So what I did was I created the module for Java for K6, okay? One of my former peers when I was at Grafana still, he created the Go implementation, and then Go was the only way you could run K6 via test containers. Again, it's not the normal situation I wouldn't think that you would do, because really what it's doing is it's executing a test script, and then which we'll see here in just a moment. But yeah, so I went ahead and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do it for Java so I can do this talk. So I went ahead and I created that module, contributed it, and then so now it's been merged in and they accepted it, all that good stuff. So we're good. Now, you're gonna see that this piece here, the Spring Boot, okay, it's the exact same, because we're gonna use that Postgres database. We're gonna seed it with the same data. We're gonna have the those 10 records, okay? And then, but now I'm doing some of this, again, the random port, but I'm gonna need access to that port. So I'm using the local server port here so that Spring Magic will populate that for me. And then now here's where I'm bringing in my use of K6. So because I'm using multiple containers, I have to use this exposes host port so that the one container can talk to the other. And then I am creating my K6 container and then following the methodology or the styling that the rest of the test container modules are. You pass in the Docker image name. So in this case, it's the Grafana K6 in version 49. And then here I will tell it, this is where the custom module code comes in. I'm going to tell it, okay, my test script is going to be on the class path, and it's going to be this guy here, this API compliance JS. And for those not familiar with K6, K6 is predominantly known as a load test application. So we're really pushing it as a quality or reliability testing, okay? Because obviously a contract test is not a load test. We're going to do one single tracer through, okay? Not 10,000 different requests, simulating 40,000 users. We're not going to do that, but all the test scripts are written in JavaScript. And the fun fact on that too is that with K6, that JavaScript is interpreted into Go and then run as a Go program. Because Go is the best. So, no. Sorry? What language would I say is the worst? I don't know. I'm not a fan of JavaScript either. Yeah, no. Which one? Auto hotkey. What is, huh? like the Apple macro stuff. Yeah, no. But yeah, well, I had a class in COBOL once. Yep. 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 You got it. And then that's what, yeah. So to repeat that because nobody heard that online again. And I'm gonna, yeah. It's so what we're doing is we're gonna go through, we're gonna spin up a Postgres container and populate that with the data. We're gonna spin up a K6 container that's gonna load up that K6 test script that is in our project here. And then it's going to execute that against our running service, which is using the Postgres database to validate that everything is correct. And yes, that's exactly what it is. I guess I'm done, right? Do I even need to show anybody? No. And I will say that there's some shenanigans going on because this person that brought that up was at my Go presentation on this. So, It's that's good. Then I'm doing my job. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to execute this particular test script that's on our class path, our test class path. Okay, we're going to pass into the script, which I'll show you in a minute here, that we're going to pass in variables into the script to tell it, okay, what's the host that it's going to target? So in other words, our service that's going to be running in the containers. And then it's going to give the port, which Spring Boot, nicely bound for us from a random port and then gave us the injected value of it. So we'll pull that in, and then we're going to provide just additional command line options because K6 is just a command line utility. So in this case, I'm going to use the no usage report because, K6, if you didn't know it, every time you execute it, it phones home to say, hey, I just ran this many virtual users, this many requests. They're not collecting any kind of personally identifying information, but it is a little bit, we've gotten black eyes on it that code is in there that, is doing that. It should really be opt-in, not opt-out. But this, by providing that argument, that'll opt you out. So this way then you're not sitting there additionally calling out and, reporting in some of that stuff. Just something to be aware of. Again, it's nothing nefarious. There was no ill intent or anything like that, but really it's just the better thing. The more appropriate thing is to have opt-in. Anyway, so yeah, and then here my container is the K6 container. So here I'm explicitly telling it to start because I don't have the nice Spring Boot magic that's automatically handling that for me, like in just the plain Postgres. Okay, and then I'm going to create a waiting consumer. So I'm going to sit there and basically I'm going to tail the logs as the script is executing. Okay, and I'm going to wait until it's complete. And then this is just something from the K6 output, which again, we'll see. But this is going to indicate when the test is actually completed. Okay, there's some terminal output the K6 does that will let you know that it's done. And then here I'm going to do my check in that thresholds on metrics checks have been crossed. So again, this is a K6 thing where you define thresholds. So you're going to say like so like a load testing thing mostly. So you're going to say, okay, with my load test, if my requests per second drop below 20,000 requests per second, fail the test. Meaning we're not accepting of enough load to move on in our process. Because again, it's primarily known as a load testing software package. That's how it got its start. I don't know if anyone's really interested in the history of K6, but it is kind of fun. It started off as the folks that wrote it were creating one of these what is it, the multi-online player games called Gator World or something. This is like early 2000s, a massively online player game or whatever. But anyway, so that wasn't going too well, but they had to do load testing. So when the game wasn't going so well, they thought, hey, we can start doing consulting work and things like that with the load testing software. So they started getting into that, and then they created a company later on, and that's the rest is history. And then they got purchased by Grafana. Yeah, so here we take a look, and then before I get to the next one, was there any questions on that so far? And I'm sure I'm probably eating in the time awful close here, but I am almost done. Okay. All right. So we'll take a look at this script here. So this is the K6 script. Okay. And then, like I said, it is JavaScript. And then we have all kinds of different utilities and things that you can bring in because you can test all kinds of stuff. You can sit there and hammer on Kafka if you want to load and see if your Kafka consumers can handle, a giant load. Redis. There's many, many, many things that you can do with K6. So I will highly recommend it. Even though I don't work there anymore, not that they didn't let me go. I left on my own. Anyway, so this is some of the information. We're doing one virtual user. Okay, and then it's going to be one single request. That's all we need, right, to test the API. We're going to accept any kind of incoming parameters. Okay, and we'll keep scrolling here. Okay, and then just building up the URL that we're going to target. So that's going to be our service. And then I'm going to come through here. We're doing all RESTful JSON payloads. Okay, and then I'm going to create some values here. And then I'm going to go through, do just the simple RESTful GET, okay? And then I'm going to start doing some checks on things that, that it returned, the response was a 200 success. And then here we're going to get all the payloads. We're going to go through, check things, make sure that things are populated. In this case, let's see, where are we at? I guess I can look here on my screen. I keep looking up there. Yeah, so for the posts, creating a new place, make sure that, we get things back as expected. Here we retrieve a single place, and then we can check each of the individual attributes to make sure that everything that we're expecting, as far as like, an attribute name, that we get back an ID, or that we get back a name in this case. And because we're doing places, the latitude, longitude, all that good stuff. Here we have some created at, updated at, some of those things. So I'm just going through an exercise and saying, yeah, each one of these services is going to return the exact same thing with the same data. Okay, so if I, say, get me input or ID 1, I'm going to get the exact same result, regardless of the implementation. So this is all that stuff. Here again, if it's not found, it's going to fail the test, all that fun stuff. And that's you can leave that as an exercise for looking at later. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run this. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and debug. So again, I'll just pop over here and we should see flashes of containers coming to life. Boom, 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 done, okay? Oh, snap, we had a problem. All right, so if we see here, let me go ahead and scroll here a little bit. All right, so this is gonna be the execution of the test. And then now, if we look, here's going to be, this is going to be the output from K6, okay? Because again, it's a command line utility. So what we had to do is we had that waiting consumer, and it was sitting there listening to the logs as they were coming in to finally say that, oh yeah, I hit the summary, which we'll see here in a moment. And then that way then it knows, okay, test is done. Now I can look at what happened. So if we take a look in here, and then this is because I made the my script real nice and pretty, where it's got the groupings and all that stuff. That's just K6, sugar. But we look here, we'll see that we got our failure threshold. But if we take a look here, we'll see that response didn't have created at. So what we just called into the service, we didn't have the created at attribute come back, nor did we have the updated at. All right, so now if we take a look, and I had already, gee, guess what? I planted this issue. Oh my. Yeah, so if we take a look up here at the script, we can see that I actually have a log out here. So let's take a look at the actual payload. So if we take a look here, we'll see that this is the actual response that we got back from that particular method. I think it was a create, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think ID 11. But anyway, and it was complaining that updated at wasn't provided. Well, it is, but it's named differently. It's updated capital A at, not updated underscore at. So obviously that's an API breaking change if somebody, was expecting that. So now this is just with the Spring Boot magic and the further magic of Lombok, I can override the JSON representation for that attribute. So I'm going to go through here, and then I'm going to actually just do get rollback. Oops. Okay. And then now here we'll see that I'm now overriding, so that when this is serialized out, it's going to go as created underscore at. So I can go ahead and rerun this. And then we'll see that all is green, as a good test should be. Now, did you notice that my previous test succeeded? My places, the places rest controller, that test that I did, that was green. That was all good. That's normally what we would be doing in our unit tests, right? Well, this particular contract test, that just caught something that was going to be, it wasn't going to be discovered until there was an integration test or system integration test. So we just uncovered that issue early on in the process. So does it give us a bonus? I don't know, maybe. But yeah, but it definitely stops that from getting further. And then yeah, so that's one where again, when I was doing the Go one, it didn't seem like it was the right use for it. But with the Java one, this one actually worked out quite nicely. And then I thought, I like that because it's, again, we were thinking it was green before, and then we ran this one and then it was failing. Let's see. So any questions on that little piece? Okay. All right. So that's that. Now I'm going to switch back to, there we go. All right. All right. So what's next? We'll see. Profiling suite. So this is back on the We SVC project. If anyone's interested in playing around with this or whatever, helping out, I greatly appreciate it. But some of the next steps I want to do is create a profiling suite so I can actually simulate load so that we could actually see, oh, okay, yeah, at 10,000 requests per second, just doing a simple little project, how long does it take in the Spring Boot implementation? How long does it take with the Go implementation? How long do those requests take? What's the latency with the Rust implementation? So, and then, and then I was going to put in a cool little, Grafana dashboard and be like, ooh, ah, and stuff, and maybe get a bonus. I don't know. But yeah, so, and then, I'd like to do some, automation of that, the comparative analyses and things, and continue to add languages and frameworks. So again, yeah, any kind of help is appreciated. It's a fun thing to just kind of play around with, just to kind of get acclimated to it. So with all that, now that I'm getting more parched, what did we learn from it? So, again, test-driven design principles, they're good and they're bad, right? They can be good in that they encourage good abstractions and patterns that every good developer should be using. But it's kind of bad in a way too, because you can go overboard, as with anything, and then you can make your code difficult to grok or understand. And then now here from the Go, the fun little gopher guy, Abraham Gopher, in this case, is giving one of the Go proverbs where, really with the Go programming language, it's all about really being clear is better than clever, and that's kind of goes with a lot of this other stuff with Java as well. You can write a wicked one-liner, but should you? And then again, test containers enable that isolation with real dependencies. And I really should have bolded, I guess, real dependencies, because again, just tying back that thing again, is that mocks can drift from reality. And it's terrible if you're testing against something that no longer exists, because you can get a false sense of security. And then as shown with that API, excuse me, contract, that, early detection of issues is always better. And it's a pretty consistent experience. You can use this obviously in your development pipeline. My example might not be the best or anything, but it's just really just to bring home the point, how some of this stuff works. Yeah, the test resources are automatically cleaned up, and then you can have multiple strategies. So in my case, I kind of was waiting for that log point to get to where was the summary from K6 to basically let me know that, yeah, the script is done. Well, if you wanted to stand up an Nginx, which you can actually do with test containers, you can say, okay, yeah, it's not ready to start your test until port 80 is available. That it is responding, that you can get a 200 back, and then you can start your test. So you can wait. So if you do have something like in the case of the Oracle, with 500 tables, yeah, your test will wait for, however long it takes to stand that service up, and then it can start executing your test code. But yeah, and then I always like to do this on my first looks is I like to give my personal subjective scoring of that. And I give Testcontainers an A+. I mean, seriously, it was easy to get started. It's pretty fast. I mean, you're dealing with containers, so it's fairly lightweight. It's if you have all those image layers cached locally already, it's pretty quick to start up. So your first one's going to be a little bit of overhead, possibly, depending on the image size, but then your subsequent runs will get better and better. So yeah, and it's actually very, very flexible. I mean, with over the 50 modules and that, it's pretty cool what you can do because it's really like almost unlimited, almost. But yeah, and I think you should definitely use this. And with that, the gnome is out. But yeah, again, feel free to link up with me on LinkedIn. Not on the Twitter sphere awful much, but yeah. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Does anybody have any more questions here for Paul? Maybe some of the people online might have some questions. Okay, I'm getting some nods that there's no questions coming in.
Hopefully they're not all asleep.
Okay, you're getting some thumbs up apparently. All right. Well, thank you. I think we'll end the recording right now, but if you're online, you can go ahead and stay on.